Islands provide unique environments isolated from the larger land masses. The animals and the people that live on islands are faced with different problems of survival, in which the ocean is usually very important. Island populations can develop in special ways. Islands situated close to continents on the continental shelf will resemble the neighbouring land mass, but islands in the deep ocean, formed by volcanic action or the buckling of the Earth's tectonic plates, can have very peculiar characteristics. One of the planet's most isolated islands is Easter Island. It's also one of the most individual. This small island saw the rise and fall of a unique Polynesian civilization that left a series of stone monoliths carved from the island's volcanic rock. It is administered by Chile and lies in the South Pacific 3,600 kilometres west of South America. Known as Moai, the statues on Easter Island were erected about 500 years ago. But the link between the island's inhabitants and the carvers of the statues was broken in the 19th century when the island was raided by slave traders and then ravaged by introduced diseases to which the local people had no resistance. The Moai face inland, and each one represents a prominent ancestor. Northeast of Scotland, at the boundary of the Atlantic and the North Sea, lie the Shetland Islands. These treeless islands have been inhabited since the Bronze Age, and they have always relied on fishing and farming till recent times when oil and gas were discovered in the East Shetland Basin. The largest of the islands, known as mainland, is the site of Lerwick, the archipelago's administrative centre and its main port. It is the UK's most northerly town. A ferry links Lerwick to Aberdeen, more than 300 kilometres to the south. Other smaller ferries run between the 15 inhabited islands of the Shetland archipelago. 100 smaller islands remain unpopulated. These efficient transport services have led to a rapid expansion of the tourist industry that now thrives on these once isolated islands. The main attraction is the island's abundant wildlife. The islands are criss-crossed with footpaths that make the Shetlands a walker's paradise. Tourists travelling out towards the uninhabited island of Noss can see grey seals resting along the rocky coastline. Visitors can see the sun both rise and set in the ocean. Twice weekly, scheduled flights from London land at Sunborough Airport, 40 kilometres south of Lerwick. Across the island chain, there are stone structures dating back to the Bronze Age. The island of Unst has one of the world's largest colonies of great skuas, and the island's craggy cliffs provide safe nesting sites for Arctic seabirds. Boat tours around the intricate coastlines cater to the growing numbers of wildlife enthusiasts. Common and grey seals can be seen all year round. They are untroubled by boat traffic, and visitors can see the mammals basking on beaches, rocks, and even slipways. In the past, the seals were hunted for their pelts, but overexploitation led to a drastic decline in populations. These days, sightings of killer whales are becoming common during the summer months. In winter, they follow the schools of mackerel further out to sea. There are 3 large seabird colonies at the Hermanus, Noss and Sunborough Head nature reserves. Here, breeding colonies of fulmars, kittiwakes, razorbills, puffins, gannets and guillemots can be seen nestling in the safety of the steep cliffs. Tour boats ply the narrow channels between islands. These bird observation tours are very popular. The island of Fula, to the west, has some of the highest cliffs in the United Kingdom, with narrow footpaths along the tops. The sea life in the waters surrounding the Shetlands is abundant, and for those not keen to strap on an aqualung, a special boat equipped with submarine cameras allows visitors to get clear views from beneath the surface. The cold waters have high oxygen levels that support great densities of plankton, that in turn supports a rich web of marine life. The range of bird life that lives and breeds on the Shetland Islands attracts ornithologists from all over the world. On the island of Musa, the UK's Royal Society for the Protection of Birds has a banding program designed to collect data on the various bird species. Martha Devine, a warden with the RSPB, is involved in the program. Young birds are banded with a unique identifying number that allows researchers to monitor individual birds' progress. They've discovered that bird populations fluctuate according to the warmth of the ocean currents. The Shetlands are experiencing a tourist boom, and nature reserves afford protection to the wildlife that draws people to the islands. Further to the northwest, the Faroe Islands share a similar isolation to the Shetlands. Here, an archipelago of 18 islands supports a population of almost 50,000 people. The islands lie in the Gulf Stream, the ocean current that warms northwestern Europe. Given their high latitude, the Faroe Islands enjoy a moderate climate. The mountains here are high and treeless, and nowhere is more than 5 kilometres from the ocean. Though the islands are remote, air transport has made them accessible, and a good infrastructure connects the islands by helicopter and by boat. A self-governing region of Denmark, the residents speak Faroese, a language with strong links to Old Norse. The islands are built on tilting layers of volcanic rock, with western coasts featuring high cliffs and eastern shores sloping to the sea. The islands were initially settled by Irish monks in the 6th century, but they were displaced 150 years later by Vikings, and the language spoken here today is directly related to the old Viking language. The islands are now directly connected to the outside world via digital television and the internet, and the sudden flow of communications has residents worried about the future of their ancient language. Emma Winther has lived in the Faroese capital Tórshavn her whole life. At 89 years, she is proud to call herself Faroese and keep up important traditions, but 3 years ago, Emma bought a computer.
No.
The Faroese are familiar with the Scandinavian languages and with English, but the new technologies are bringing in a flood of English words for technical things that the local island language struggles to identify. Islanders are concerned that the introduction of new technology and modern English will lead to the end of the ancient language. The Carteret Islands are a small group of low-lying atolls in the southwestern Pacific, rapidly becoming uninhabitable due to the effects of rising ocean levels and associated erosion, storm surges, and dwindling food supplies caused by salt ingression onto formerly arable land. Locals have fought a long battle against the rising sea, building walls from giant clamshells and erecting nets to prevent erosion. However, storm surges have completely overwhelmed efforts to hold back the seas. Island leaders say people are facing starvation as salt-contaminated gardens fail to sustain vegetation. Before saltwater destroyed their gardens, locals used to supplement their diets with taro, breadfruit and bananas. Now, apart from sporadic emergency food supplies from local authorities on nearby Bougainville, they are forced to subsist on a diet of fish and coconuts. Drinking water is also a problem, as wells have become contaminated by salt water, and local health workers report extra cases of tuberculosis and malaria. When the sea level rises, the saline water table, which is underneath the freshwater table, also rises. Some of the Carteret atolls are only 1 or 2 metres above sea level, so rises of several tens of centimetres can have a significant effect on the water table and on the crops that depend on fresh water. In the Mediterranean Sea, near Sicily, a new island is struggling to emerge from the waters. Known as Fernandina, the island last emerged in 1831, sparking a diplomatic squabble among several nations all trying to claim it. It rose 65 metres above the surface and had a circumference of around 5 kilometres. The British claimed it as Graham Island, the French called it Julia, Spain wanted it but didn't give it a name, and finally the Kingdom of Naples claimed it, calling it Fernandina after King Ferdinand II. Fernandina is the tip of a submerged volcano that seems to be linked with the activity of Mount Etna in the west of Sicily. The island has emerged 4 times over the centuries, with underwater volcanic eruptions recorded during the First Punic War 2,200 years ago. Six months after its 19th century appearance, before an agreement could be reached between the 4 nations anxious to make it their own, Fernandina sank back beneath the sea. During the recent seismic activity, Italian divers went down to lay claim to the island before it resurfaced, and found the original plaque left as part of the Neapolitan claim in 1831. The divers made measurements that confirmed the island had risen by 2 metres to be less than 6 metres below the surface of the Mediterranean. Mount Etna is the world's most active volcano. It was erupting again, and Fernandina was expected to rise quite quickly, as it had done in the past. In the nearby Sicilian port of Sciacca, the disappearing island is a story passed from generation to generation of local fishermen. Vito Domino, a fisherman in his 60s, says his father told him the island disappeared as soon as the British planted their flag on it. Many submarine volcanoes exist in this part of the Mediterranean, as well as some volcanic islands, such as Pantelleria, but as yet, Fernandina has not re-emerged from the sea. If you've ever dreamed of living the simple life on a tropical island, a new online ecotourism venture could turn that fantasy into reality. TribeWanted.com, a new spin on the concept of timeshare vacations, is the brainchild of 2 British entrepreneurs who are seeking 5,000 people to join an online community to oversee the sustainable development of an 80-hectare Pacific island. For a fee, members can join the tribe for 1 to 3 years and buy the right to visit the island of Vorovoro in Fiji for between 1 and 3 weeks. Vorovoro currently has 4 inhabitants, Tui Mali and his brother, and their wives, all from the neighbouring island of Mali. TribeWanted.com has a 3-year lease, after which it will revert to the local community. Situated above the Arctic Circle, the Norwegian archipelago of Svalbard has average winter temperatures of -12 degrees. The island's unique location makes them perfect as a base for a wide range of scientific observations. Detailed weather records reveal that average temperatures over the past 100 years have risen by 6 degrees, so climatologists have set up there to document the effects of global climate change. In addition, an observatory dedicated to the study of the auroras has been established, and the European Space Agency has situated satellite facilities to monitor Earth-observing satellites in polar orbits. Because the observatory is located in such a hostile environment, scientists must be well prepared for poor weather. Huge backup batteries stand ready for power emergencies, and several rooms are equipped with bunk beds in case of storms. The observatory's instruments are mainly optical, because the aurora borealis gives off visible light. Solar storms are closely linked to the auroras, and the effect of extreme solar activity on satellites, communications, and global positioning systems can be devastating, so this research has far-reaching implications. The island's long polar nights are ideal for studying the dayside aurora, where charged solar particles that enter the Earth's atmosphere during daylight are unobservable from below the Arctic Circle. Wide-angle cameras positioned within the heated plexiglass domes and fitted with dual-colour filter wheels can record images of the auroras across the whole sky. The new observatory houses instruments from 16 institutions from 7 countries. The optical observations are coordinated with observations from satellites monitoring the sun. Sunspot activity can lead to high-speed ejections from the solar corona. When one of these giant clouds of charged particles collides with the Earth, most will be deflected by our planet's magnetic field. At the poles, where the magnetic field lines converge, these particles can spiral into the upper atmosphere, where they interact with the ionosphere, causing auroras. As part of the International Polar Year, scientists from 10 different countries are working on the remote islands, gathering data about climate change. Svalbard is also the location of the International Seed Vault, a repository for as many seeds from as many different species as can be collected. It serves as a guarantee against loss of plant biodiversity. Svalbard's largest town is Longyearbyen, where its main tourist shop focuses on polar bears, which, like the glaciers, are in trouble. Researchers here are also studying the bears, which are suffering as the ice packs from which they hunt are breaking up earlier in the season. Just 1,000 kilometres from the North Pole, this remote part of Norway is home to 3,000 polar bears and just 2,300 people. The bears are intimately tied to the sea ice, hunting ringed seals that rest on the floes. They also use the ice corridors to move from one area to another. Scientists on Svalbard use anaesthetic darts to knock out bears while they collect blood samples and take various measurements. This work is showing that both mature animals and their young are losing weight. Another unique island environment and another observatory that takes advantage of the special conditions there. The dormant volcano on the island of La Palma in the Canary Islands provides the setting for the observatory of Roque de los Muchachos, one of the world's leading centres for optical astronomy. The observatory is home to the 4.2-metre William Herschel telescope and the Dutch Open telescope, as well as a range of smaller instruments. One of the main problems faced by astronomers observing the night sky is light pollution, and because the observatory is located 2,400 metres above sea level, there is virtually no light pollution here. The island's location gives it clear skies throughout the year. Here, clouds normally don't rise above 1,800 metres. Conditions at Roque de los Muchachos are not only ideal for nighttime observations, but also for solar physics. High on an open steel tower, a team of Dutch scientists are operating the Dutch Open telescope. This is an innovative optical telescope used for high-resolution imaging of the solar atmosphere. It allows astronomers to study the sun, its spots, and coronal mass ejections. The observatory's flagship telescope is the William Herschel telescope. It is the largest single-mirrored telescope in Europe. With the help of its 4.2-metre mirror, British scientist Samantha Rex is developing a laser system that will allow telescopes to avoid the distortions caused by turbulence of the atmosphere, which reduces the resolution of images from space. By firing a laser 15 kilometres into the sky, astronomers are able to measure atmospheric disturbances, then use this information to correct image distortions. Not all islands are in the oceans. Piriti Island in Lake Titicaca is home to one of South America's oldest cultures. Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake in the world, spreads across the border between Bolivia and Peru. Piriti Island is home to the indigenous Aymaras, descendants of the Tuanacotas, who inhabited this part of South America around 1500 BC. The Tuanuku culture is the most long-lived on the continent, surviving 27.5 centuries, twice as long as the Roman Empire. Its longevity beats the 120-year Inca reign hands down. The island's residents maintain many of their indigenous traditions, wearing their brightly coloured hats and shawls. There's been an effort to honour Piriti's history. Recently, a museum dedicated to the history of the Tuanacotas and Aymaras opened on Piriti, exhibiting pieces from the ancient culture. The museum will help to promote tourism to the island. The Dutch Parliament has moved a motion to build a tulip-shaped island as part of a coastal development. To combine the costs of fortifying dikes against rising sea levels and to provide badly needed housing space, the Dutch Parliament has asked a Commission on Coastal Development to look into the idea of building islands in the North Sea. Christian Democrat politician Joep Atsma sponsored the parliamentary motion. Supporters of the scheme say it will give Dutch companies a chance to showcase their water management skills that are increasingly in demand due to global warming. But critics say the plan will be prohibitively expensive and harm delicate ecosystems. The Netherlands, literally the Low Countries, has a long history of pioneering technology to help it claw back land from the sea and fight recurrent flooding. One of the world's most densely populated countries, with 16 million people living in an area about half the size of Scotland, or 485 people per square kilometre, a quarter of the land is below sea level, and it lies on the floodplains of 3 big rivers. After devastating floods in 1953, the Dutch launched one of the world's largest construction schemes, the Delta Project, to raise dikes, close sea estuaries and build a huge storm surge barrier. But the Tulip Island project at this stage remains just a concept.